So we'll get underway now. First of all, a huge thank you to all of you for joining today's webinar. We're really grateful for you attending, and we hope that you find it the next 54 minutes really helpful and valuable. And incumbent on me also to thank our host for today, Richard Kruller, joining us from the University of Cambridge. Richard and I have known each other for some months now, coming up on a year, I think. And Richard has been at Cambridge University for, I think, coming up on 7 or 8 years now, and has been the distance with Halo over the last few years, and obviously is here today to describe his journey with the platform at obviously one of our most revered and historical institutions in the country. So thank you, Richard, also for joining. Just to quickly describe the format for today. After Richard's introduced himself, we'll let him walk through his presentation, and I'll be kind of jumping in as a needs to ask him some questions along the way. We have a Q&A function also for the end, but we also have the chat function that you've also already started to use to tell us where you're joining us from today. So do feel free to ask some questions in the chat as we go. We'd be delighted to take some of those questions along the way. Recognise the webinar format isn't as interactive as some, but should hopefully give us a good opportunity to take some of those questions as we go, and get your feedback and thoughts as we proceed through Richard's presentation. We'll leave probably about 10 minutes or so at the end just for Q&A, so that you've got that opportunity right at the end if you haven't brought anything up through the time that Richard speaks. So that's the plan for today. Hopefully that works for everyone. And with that, I will just very quickly make note of the fact we've got a QR code on the screen today. I'll bring it up at the end as well, but what that will give you the opportunity to do is to get back in touch with Mosaic as the host of this webinar, and potentially also request a complimentary tooling assessment, which we deliver for a lot of our clients. But as I say, today's all about hearing from Richard and his journey. So with that, I will pass to you, Richard.
Hi there, thanks, Kieran. Richard Kruller, Service Desk Manager for UIS, which is University Information Services, which is effectively the IT department for the university, although it's not as straightforward as that, as with anything in Cambridge. We have a very federated structure, and not everyone is enforced or mandated to consume our services, but a lot of people do, and we are hoping that more people will consume our services.
Fantastic. And just by quick way of introduction of myself, I'm Kieran Bales, Engagement Director with Mosaic. Been with Mosaic for about 2.5 years. Prior to that, spent 17 years in the Big Four, latterly as a partner at Deloitte in Australia before we moved back to the UK. So Mosaic, if you've not come across us before, a great deal. We're an operating model specialist, and as part of that, we see tooling such as Halo as a really core dimension of any operating model. We've been an independent ServiceNow partner for nearly 10 years. We've were acknowledged as the Halo EMEA Partner of the Year late last year, and we've delivered Halo to probably over 60 clients now in the last 18 months or so, and are really enjoying working with our colleagues at Halo and what is an incredible platform. So Richard, back to you.
Thanks very much. I should probably add that most of my career was non-technical. So I spent most of my time managing restaurants and doing nothing technical whatsoever, apart from turning things off and turning them on again. So if you've got any technical questions, you're probably going to be sorely disappointed. But I will take any away and get back to you if that's the requirement. So,
yeah, of course, and we can help with that too, with taking those questions away. Some of our technical consultants can certainly look into those for you, so don't hesitate to drop those into the chat or the Q&A.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, the main thing is to sort of give a bit of an explanation of what Cambridge is. So it's incredibly diverse. We have, it's 800 years old. it's on the corner of the Fens. It's a little market town, but it's also this world-renowned research centre that we've done remarkably well to keep it up in the rankings as with the way things are run. It's a challenge. So it's full of contradiction. It's basically there's 31 colleges, there's 150 departments, and as I mentioned before, it's not everyone consumes services from the centre. So a lot of the colleges run their own independent networks and wireless systems, but increasingly they're taking them from us, from the centre. What else should I need to say there? Really, I suppose this is about recognizing where we were to start with. So we're on a journey, so we've learned a lot. We've tried to make some changes, and as we go through the slides, I think you'll see that it's not been easy, but we are getting there. So I think when I started 7 years ago, I started looking at the service desk, and there was a team of people. So we had 10 analysts at the time. All of them had been there years. They were very knowledgeable, very skilled, and all lovely, but they were very demoralized. We had no process, we had no policy, we didn't have a knowledge base. We were sitting on 500-600 tickets at any one given time. And whenever there was a problem or a major incident, it was all very reactive, all just trying to clamber around and try and stay above water. And so it was really challenging to chip away at that and break that down. Not to mention the tool that we were using, it was very difficult to get any sort of real reporting out of it. Certainly nothing live. So that, again, it was hard to manage what you couldn't see. Thanks, Kieran. Should we move on to the next slide there? So we were slow to mature. We recognized that there was a lot of things that we needed to do. We recognized that there was a lot of pain, and we wanted things to get better. Now, the previous ITSM tooling that we had was, when you looked at it in the Gartner quadrant, it was in the right place, but it wasn't the way it was implemented. There was no governance, there was no policy. It was just sort of released on everyone, and there was no support package. So it was really hard to sort of try and unify things and trying to get things together. The other thing that wasn't ideal was, when you wanted to mature to the next stage, so whether that's problem management or asset or release or any of those things, you had to purchase a new license and to bolt it on to the existing system. So there was always a blocker. Yeah, thanks, James. It was Ivanti's heat. Now, I don't think that heat itself is really what was really the blocker. It was us, the way we implemented it. I know they're using it up in Glasgow to really good effect. So I can't say that was the only thing that was holding us back. It wasn't, but it was us and the tool together combined to create quite a big problem for us. The other thing that wasn't ideal was the licensing model was also a bit of a challenge. but yeah, so it didn't flex with us. I think that's the crux of it. And the reporting, we just couldn't get the stats out of it that we needed. Thanks, Kieran. Should we move on? So what did we do? So I think that the real change came from the people. It wasn't just the tool. It wasn't just a case of dropping in Halo and like, yeah, everything's done, magic bullet. Not at all. All this really all the improvement from the service desk side really started as a bit of a catalyst from one new employee. And he came in and he recognized that one of the service requests that we had, so we had half a dozen service request forms, and they were really laborious. So we had one that was just basically came in as a Word document, and then you just had to copy and paste little bits and pieces over into different access groups and things. It was bonkers, and it took about 40 minutes, this thing. And it was the most common form that we had in. So he said, look, I think I can do something about this. I think I can improve this. And he was off tickets for months. It was really painful. But he did. He improved it, and he got it down to sort of under a minute. And this was a bit of a game changer for us. And it was a real realization that things could be improved, and that we did, and that no one was coming to our rescue. We had to, if we were going to get out of this mess, we had to build ourselves out of it. So it's like, right, what else can you do? So I just kept him off tickets, which is a very challenging decision to make when you're sitting on 500 tickets. So things got worse, no, there's no question about it. We got more tickets, and it took longer for us to answer them, until such a point where we'd done a few forms, and actually, it wasn't taking us all day to do a handful of forms. It was taking us half an hour, and then like we had that capacity back to start chipping away at the incident tickets. So we just kept building forms. We started creating a knowledge base. That brought a challenge in itself, because I tried this thing where I said, I want all of you to create a knowledge article, one knowledge article every day. And I thought I thought this would be great. We're just going to get, within a year, we're going to have like all these articles, and it's going to be amazing. It was terrible. It was a terrible idea. They didn't want to do them. They were very varied in quality. There was duplications. It was an absolute mess. But we had someone in the team that was really good at them, did really want to do them. So she is now our knowledge manager, and is excellent at it, and she reviews and creates articles for us. So it's using people to their strengths. We had some quality in there, and then that in itself encourages other people. It's like, oh, can I have a go at this? Can I do that? And it's like, of course. So now, if I look at the tickets now, I won't, but if I looked at the tickets now, I'd be surprised if there was more than 20 on the queue that with no owner, probably less than 10. So it's taken us this long to get here, and almost all of the existing staff from the service desk have moved on. I've had one retire, one's left the university, one is still there, and one's promoted, but everyone else has come in and been promoted on to other teams. And we've got new people in with fresh ideas. They're pushing me to improve things, and that has been the real driver of change. If I'm honest, it's not been me, it's been me allowing them to do their jobs, and that's been the real key thing. They have in turn looked at our processes, So a few years ago, we created an incident management process, which was painful. It was incredibly slow for us to create this thing, but we did. And where I think it really helped was creating some, well, they're not really SLAs, but they are service level targets. So we created response and resolution targets for ourselves. We thought they were incredibly aspirational at the time. And now I think we're looking next year when we review it, that we're going to tighten them right up and see if we can improve our delivery of those even more. Because when we're looking at them, yes, sorry, thank you, Andrew. This is all before Halo. It's all before Halo. Yeah, when we were looking at the response and resolution times, we're well in, absolutely well in those now, which is great. Since moving to Halo, this has sped up our adaptability. It's sped up our ability to move forward at pace. It's intuitive. We can get the workflows done. We can start thinking about automating some of these things a lot more. So it's just a platform that is much more intuitive to our needs and scales. Shall we move on, Kieran? I'll probably talked a bit too much on that one. So where we're talking about empowerment. So now we're not there yet, but what we really are trying to do is give greater autonomy to those different business areas other than IT. So we want other areas that are using the ITSM tool that we provide to be able to create their own workflows, to be able to create their own knowledge base, to create their own service request forms, all those sort of things. Now, even though then they are separated from, so we can't see each other's incidents, things like that, but unless we're passing them to each other, but what we can do is we can create those service requests from the center a lot quicker than we ever used to be able to. It used to be really laborious, and we had 3 people trying to do them, and then they'd come back and they'd need to be tested. Whereas now it's a lot faster. But we need to do that. We need to improve that even further. And the other thing that I would say is where we now have some reporting, and I'll talk a little bit more about it, but where we've now got reporting in place, that has really helped enable teams and service managers to take this, to see what's going on. They've got a much better idea of who's doing the work, the volume of the work, where it's going, where it's coming from, and you can then manage that much better in your team. So that's really helped, and people are starting to ask us, it's like, oh, can we do this? No one was asking about asset management or release management a couple of years ago, but now it's like, oh, do you think we can do that? So it's starting this process of maturity, and it's just enabled that to sort of change that, so tweak that culture and that yes, we can attitude that's coming in.
Richard, can I ask you a question? You mentioned giving kind of greater autonomy to other areas of the organization. Obviously, we've been talking about in our discussions some particular parts of the organization that are really keen to join to onboard their workflows to Halo and drive the sort of improvements and efficiencies and transformation of that work and that service delivery. But do you want to just describe that, your journey with that so far in terms of what types of workflows and how you've gone about bringing them on, and any reflections you have on how you might do that differently and how you're intending to do that going forward?
So we've been really surprised by the the demand that has come in. So we never had this demand on the previous ITSM tool. You know, no one wanted to join us. In fact, we were asking people to join us and they were saying, no, you know, we don't want to come on board. And now we haven't gone out and asked anyone, but there's a constant flow of people that have heard about Halo that are wanting to take advantage of it. Now, there's a lot of people out there that are still working from shared mailboxes, things like that, and just email inboxes. And that's obviously very difficult to track work. You can't really build the workflows into that, or you have to apply a workflow to it. So you know, you're not getting the visibility. You know, it's hard to get the scale of the work that's coming in. So when people have come on board, you know, we've sort of said, of course, we've said, yeah, brilliant. You know, come on board. We can bring you in. We can create some basic forms for you. But you know, we didn't really know what good looked like, and we knew that with the demand was coming a problem. So we've got the self-service portal in Halo, and we're happily adding teams to it, but it was becoming messy. We knew it's not, well, we know it's not set up correctly. You know, so this is where, you know, and this was no fault of Halo. When we went live, we didn't know what we wanted, and we couldn't make a decision in time. So we had to go live with what we had. Now, that was set up by IT for IT, not end users. And I think that's really where we want to engage with Mosaic, the self-care, and as you know, the conversations we've had is like, we don't know what good looks like. Help us. You know, I think there has been some arrogance in the past from people at Cambridge where they haven't wanted to engage with external partners. You know, we can do this ourselves. We know what we're doing. I'm not interested in that approach personally. Lazy, if you like. I don't want to come up with everything and try and build something myself, and spend months doing it. I want to know what has everyone else done? You know, what's the easiest? What do most people do in this situation? We are unique, but we're not special.
Richard, we've had a couple of questions come in. It might be
Sure.
timely to address those. We've had three in the last couple of minutes. The first question was around the benefits to the customer. I think since that question came in, you started to talk to it in terms of moving away from shared mailboxes and having, you know, request forms and the, you know, granularity of workflow defined within those requests and the like, and having the single portal and so on. But, you know, would you like to just expand on those end user benefits that you've seen?
Yeah, sure. So part of it is having a single point of contact. So it's having that portal that an end user can come to, look at, find what they need to do very quickly, and have that enabled for them, whether that's a request or something's broken. You know, they can get that address. They don't have to be like, oh, something's wrong with this particular system. I've got to go and find the particular team's email address for that issue. It's like, I want to try and get away from that. It's like, just contact the service desk, just go to the portal, log the request, log the issue, and we will route it through to the right place. So that's one of those. Another part of this is, you know, having request forms. So going to the right place in the first time, having a request form, whether that's going to HR for an issue or maintenance or housekeeping or whatever it is that can be dealt with and streamlined with a workflow. So it's like, okay, I don't know, I've got an issue with my time off. Okay, so go to HR, and whereas that was disappearing into a shared mailbox before, it's like, okay, we understand what this request is. We can build a workflow. that's off the top of my head. I'm not saying that's even a thing, but you know what I mean. It's like you go with this thing. There's a workflow. It can be streamlined. It's logged. You can see the history of how that's been dealt with, whether that's or not been dealt with as well. You know, you can see that it's been ignored for so many days. You can report on that something's not been done, or if it's sitting with another team, or if it's sitting with a certain person waiting for authorization or something. So you can track all these things, which I think is much better for the end users.
Yeah, and I guess Richard, you were talking about the maturity of a basic form all the way through to the highly granular workflows with approvals and routing and automation built into them. That in itself is a journey. Just by you starting to use Halo, you would still need to define the level of granularity you wanted to pursue in any given request or any given process. Another question that came in was from Eleanor around the use of Halo for end-to-end workflows in other parts of the organization. Do you want to just talk a little bit about sort of what we're doing with your HR colleagues at the moment, and then maybe I can give a broader flavour of other organisations that have gone further than you have so far?
Yeah, sure. So we're really happy that HR are engaging with us to come on board with Halo, to use the tool. And now we were quite aware that it's a completely non-IT function that was going to go on the portal. So I reached out to Kieran and Mosaic to ask for their help in onboarding and demonstrating the benefits of having some workflows. So and Kieran is engaging with HR at the moment to sort of to create a few different scenarios for their biggest pain points. And I'm hoping that what we'll see is that they will go, oh yeah, this is much better than working from shared mailboxes, and it demonstrates a proof of concept that where you can be like, right, and the same way that it worked for us when we recognized that by improving one workflow, you're like, we've got to do more of this because it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. And if I might comment about sort of what we see with our clients more generally, I think the approach with at Cambridge University has been to allow some teams to onboard basic requests through generic request types initially, and then let them kind of evolve it and enhance the way that they use the platform over time. Other organizations will go through a more concerted kind of strategic approach to that by defining the functions that they wish to target and then going into the definition of their service catalog and the detailed kind of workflows that underpin those services, how they're delivered, how the information is captured, looking at form design and all of those kinds of things. And there's more upfront effort in that, and it means that you can think about your deployment pathway in a bit more strategically. Now, that's one way of doing it. The way that Richard and Cambridge have done it has been a lot more kind of organic, which has its own benefits, and that you create a real pull kind of effect of people hearing about it and wanting to use it and getting on, but then it creates the downstream implication that Richard's currently managing of when the demand exceeds your capacity to service it, and then the design that you have introduced starts to creak versus one that was kind of pre-built with the end goal in mind. So I think we see different flavors of clients' approaches to transforming enterprise delivery, and Richards is kind of one end of the spectrum, but others take a different, and some land in the middle as well. So there is no one kind of way to address it from our perspective. In terms of more broadly the other functional areas, I mean, from my perspective, I've seen some examples of clients across all industries and sectors that have got procurement, facilities and estates, legal, in the health context, actual outbound patient-facing workflows like patient-reported outcomes and patient-reported experience and freedom of information requests and other things like that that can all be processed through Halo. And also you have the benefit of having a platform that is very open from an integration perspective. There are 200 or so pre-canned integrations, which makes talking to other systems and incorporating other systems into those end-to-end workflows really straightforward in the vast majority of cases, which kind of touches on one of the questions that we had, Rich, which was about Jira. Jira integration. Did you want to talk a little bit about the integrations that you have in place today and any that you're considering for the future?
So again, being sort of the non-technical side of things, I'm going to shy away slightly, but the ones that we've got Teams integrated, we've got Exchange Online integrated, we've got a plan to integrate SolarWinds. There's it's a little bit endless, to be fair. I need to keep track of all these because it's just a constant stream. But there's a Fabric which is being rolled out, coming soon. We're looking at how that can integrate and how that's going to work. So there's a lot. That's like, without sort of shy away from the question, without providing any detail, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And Jamf. Yeah, thank you, James.
The question also referenced kind of other CI/CD tools, and I guess the short answer is yes, absolutely. Lots of organizations do those, particularly also around observability, monitoring and alerting. We're working with a number of clients that are just working their way through the various tools that already exist within their environments to bring greater granularity and detail into their CMDB and their ability to manage their services and report on them. So yes is the kind of the short answer to that question, albeit
so. Another one that was done was it was Dell. There's an integration with Dell, so we have what we call university managed desktop. So staff are provided with a university laptop where we can roll out software and updates through centrally. And one of those integrations was with Dell, so that we can see warranty information in the tickets that are created, so we can start to see assets and things like that. So you get an idea of what's going on and whether something's where something is in the life cycle.
Richard, and another question that we've had is how straightforward the platform is to configure forms, workflows, self-service, etc. Would you like to give your perspective on that, and then maybe I can share a broader perspective as well?
Yes. So the short answer, how easy is it? It's, for me, it's impossible, but the clever people that are actually doing the work are smashing this out. It seems like a huge leap from the last tool. It seems pretty intuitive. There's also quite a reasonable. They do this Halo University thing as well. So your technicians can go on the courses, and they've got all the information. They can, get qualifications and things like that, so that they can understand how that all works, and that they're able to do it. And Halo themselves are really responsive, to be honest. When you're trying to do something, it's not, they just answer you within a day, within a couple of days, to, when you've got challenges, and they're happy to jump on calls if you're struggling.
Thanks, Richard. I might offer my perspective on that. I mean, within Mosaic, our tooling practice, we have people that are, or most of our team are cross-skilled, so they are ServiceNow administrators and developers, and they also use Halo. Most of our team find it quick and easy to learn. When we do our implementations with our clients, they typically are in a position to undertake a good amount of the ongoing maintenance and support of the platform once the implementation is concluded. But I would say there's a variability in there for clients that wholeheartedly throw themselves into being involved in the implementation, and therefore through the period of X months of implementation are really getting hands-on, building their skills and knowledge and expertise in the platform. They are clearly going to be in a better position to take on the platform once you go live, versus others that are very consumed in their day-to-day work, less involved in actually hands-on keys with the platform through the development. We do also do different flavors of implementation where we'll actually kind of co-opt members of our clients' teams into our into our project team, to allow them some opportunity to learn through the project. But it really does vary from client to client. But overall, most clients expect to do a good amount post implementation. I would also say, though, I think that there is definitely still a place for partner-led support beyond the implementation, because, for instance, we have seen 60 plus implementations of Halo. We know what good looks like. We know where our customers are starting to use more and additional features. We can see the roadmap emerging and so on. And we can help you adopt that more quickly than if you were to be left to your own devices to do it in the early stages of actually running the tool yourself. So yeah, a whole bunch of different options there, but overall it's reasonably straightforward for those who are familiar with these kinds of tools.
Yeah, so I saw a question there from someone. Hang on, so I'll go back to this. From sorry, I lost it now. From Heath, asking how big the sprint teams are. So obviously it depends on how much work you're doing. So we were coming from quite a low point in maturity, if I'm honest. So when we implemented, our teams, our department had a certain amount of knowledge, and a certain amount of incident tickets and a few problem tickets. So there wasn't really, and obviously lots of service request forms. But as we onboarded other teams throughout the estate, most of them didn't have any knowledge base. They were using incident tickets, which started to help us to recognize the challenges and the maturity level across the estate. So that helped us see where we needed to be and where we needed to go, and sort of forced us to make some good decisions. So Halo, with regards to that question, so Halo helped us onboard all the existing. So it was like for like was what we wanted, was a minimum. So all the service request forms, all the knowledge articles that existed, we wanted them all as they are. Now we've got a team of 2 people that are our ITSM admin managers, if you like, and they are doing all the creating of workflows and new things. Anything they can't do, they escalate to Halo, and we get a bit of additional support there. So that's that's all we've really done. So how many teams were needed for end-to-end delivery? I don't know. So I suppose we had a project manager. We had the ITSM team, which is those 2 people. We also had like a technical manager, and then we had the service desk team. So there was a lot of collaboration between a lot of different people, but there was a lot of support from Halo in getting us on board. So I hope that's sort of answered the question to a degree.
Thanks, Richard. And we had a question from Andrew Behu, a couple actually. One was around, have you set up an ongoing working group to enable a controlled development of your processes and the tool? Do you want to take that one, Richard?
So we have an ITSM governance team. So requests come in. So where we came really unstuck with the last tool was that there was no governance. So if someone from another team wanted something that affected their area, it's like, yeah, fine. You know, there was no, or no, we haven't got capacity to deal with that at the moment. So it's only really that that we do at the moment. But as I alluded to earlier, where we really want to get to, where we have to get to, is having all those different business areas being completely autonomous. You know, we want them to work to a standard, and you know, especially where it's customer facing articles, things like that. We want a knowledge template to be used so that, you know, when you go in there and you're scrolling through different knowledge articles, they're not all completely different, you know, different text and things. You know, that would be an uncomfortable scenario. But you know, they have to be responsible for their own knowledge in their own areas.
Yeah, I think from my perspective, there's different flavors of this. Some organizations will have a clear and obvious Halo platform owner with an intent and a mandate to drive its use across the business in a standardized way, and encompassing all enterprise delivery, not just IT, even if it started in IT, and then that enterprise service delivery vision kind of comes to life through that ownership. I think where Cambridge University is, you know, in part described by Richard really nicely up front, is a, you know, highly kind of diverse and decentralized organization, both from a collegial perspective but also from a functional perspective, and that in itself makes that type of construct a lot harder to achieve. And so I think Richard's ambition is around, you know, controlled devolution and governance, while also trying to push to expand the use of the platform across the organization as well. And it's a difficult balance to find, but I think depending on your organization, either or you know, combinations of those approaches can be successful.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. You know, in your explanation of where we came from, you know, this has been an organic growth. We did not set out to get Halo and implement an ESM tool. You know, it was not bought for that reason. But the demand in the last 12 months, it's on that trajectory. You know, so it's like, that's the case of like, right, okay, we need to put these things in place before it gets really messy. You know, and that's where I'm hoping that Mosaic and yourself, Kieran, are really going to help us with that. You know, so it's just to get the whole package, not just like sling new stuff at Halo, because it's gonna, you know, the foundations have got to be right first. But yeah, but it's a happy problem, but it is a problem.
Yeah. We had a follow-up question around whether Halo's a no, low, or high code platform. I mean, you know, it's predominantly referred to as a no and no low code. You can't get yourself in the same kind of pickle you can with other platforms by altering code, using code. So in that sense, I suppose it is a no code platform. That helps you with upgrade cycles as well. Effectively, it's just highly configurable, and you need to know where to look to alter a setting or a combination of settings in order to deliver on the outcome that you're looking for. So in that sense, it is, you know, it's configuration only, which is, you know, when you learn the platform, you get to know where and how to change things in order to get the outcome that you're looking for. But there is no real element of coding in the platform.
We
We've had a
probably ought
question
to.
from.
We probably ought. I'm just a little bit aware of time.
Yes.
So we've probably spoken about the next couple of slides anyway. So if we go through, I'll touch on them really quickly, and then if we can perhaps address some of the questions that are at the end, or I can respond to them via text. So reporting that. So this is actually a really horrible image to, you know, as a slide, but you know, it does demonstrate the kind of dashboard that you can create, where you can get a lot of visibility of a lot of stuff quite quickly. And this is miles better than we had before. And in fact, we've got a different challenge now because we've got so much reporting information that we don't really know what to look at. So recently we have taken, so in 2024, I took the service desk through an external benchmarking, the Service Desk Institute, and they give you an assessment of where you are. Now we did terribly. I knew we would do terribly. It's why I wanted it. I wanted to demonstrate. I wanted to demonstrate to senior leadership where we were, what we needed. And it doesn't just assess the service desk. It assesses the department and the university as a whole to a certain extent. Now we've just gone through that again, and with partly due to Halo, but also a lot to do with our improvement of our processes, we got a much better score and we're on the right trajectory. There's still a lot of work to do. One of those things that we need to do a lot of work on is managerial reporting. So we're able to get what we need now. We just need to filter out what it is, what are the KPIs, what is it we should be looking at, and we can start building those reports, and other teams can as well. So that's that one. So what's next? So I think that we've kind of spoken about this a little bit. We were very much level 1, and ideally, people are starting to talk about KPIs, talking about CMDB, talking about release and asset management and things like that. So look, we're jumping around a little bit, but we are on the right journey, I suppose, is what I'd like to say with that. Looking ahead, so on the next slide, oh, sorry, yeah, no, let's talk about this. So I think lessons learned, right? Okay, so first and foremost, it's your people. Having the right people that want to change. Having that little push, and then it can snowball into the right outcomes that you're looking for. Identifying the right partner. So with Halo, so John Holgate and I. So John Holgate is one of the CEOs of our department, and we've been wanting to change the ITSM tool for some years. We recognised it was a blocker, and we wanted to change, and it kind of unified the entire department in its hatred of the additional tool, even though it was a little bit unfair, if I'm honest. However, and we went to, I can't remember what the conference was, but it was a ITSM tooling thing, and we went a few years ago, and we went to see the usual suspects. So Avanti were there, and Top Desk, and you name it, they were there, Fresh Desk, and all those. Halo were the only ones that actively engaged with passion and seemed to understand our challenges. It was personal. It was, they wanted to help us. I'm sure there's a certain amount of, Cambridge University, we really like to get that on our, one of those icons on our sales board, which is fine, absolutely. But none of the others seemed interested. None of the others were like, oh yeah, wide eyes, this is what you can do, come and have a look at this. We know what that, yeah, I recognize that problem. All the others were like, yeah, maybe, yeah, you should be able to do that. And it's just so uninspiring. And Halo were just engaging from the start. We dragged them into the office on several occasions before we committed to any spending whatsoever. There was never any hesitation, and they've been absolutely great. And it's not a case of you buy Halo, all your problems are solved. It's not. And part of the lessons learned were, we had that project manager, and to be brutally honest, thank fuck we did, because it's like Halo are fantastic. They're agile. They want to do everything yesterday, and nothing's a problem. And they've got a very much a feel of a startup. They're absolutely full of energy. Cambridge University is a lot more nervous than that. So we want, whereas they'll say, oh yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, don't worry, we'll do that. And there's no checklists, and there's no, I'm sure there is somewhere, but we didn't see it. And the training schedules, like, when are you actually going to train these guys that are going live in 2 weeks' time? And it's like, right, we're far too nervous for that. So we needed a translator, if you like, someone that can, like, okay, we've got the checklist. This is all the things that we need to do for this particular department: training, onboarding. This is what we're going to do. This is their, and it was just calming ourselves. So, Halo said they could onboard us in 3 months. They probably could. We took 6, and we were very glad that we took that structured approach, with someone helping us move at our pace. So that was definitely a lesson learned, and I would I suspect that they've improved a lot over the last few years, but that was definitely something that made us feel a lot more comfortable. And again, clarity for outcomes. So I think that is something, such as the self-service portal. We weren't clear on what we needed and wanted, and we didn't get it because we couldn't vocalize what we needed, fast enough for Halo. So we've ended up with what we've got, and and now Kieran and his team are happily for us, but they're working to unpick that work that was done, so to put it into a much better place for us. So I think that's the main lessons learned for that. Looking ahead again, so we are of course looking to continue to mature. It's all about continual improvement. Continue with integrating, whether that's Snow, which is our asset management thing, whether that's Fabric, these other things. I'd really like to see a bit more around release management, and asset management, CMDB, those sort of things going in and really getting the full package of usefulness around that. I did talk a little bit about ESM. Aspirationally, we were thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if we could have a tool where you've got one point of contact for students and staff across the university. That was never. It was a dream. It's a possibility now. I'm not saying that it's going to be Halo. I'm not saying that we're going to do it in the next 2 years. We're not. There's no way. But it's a possibility now. It's shown us that we can, and that is really, really helpful. So I think that we've come an awfully long way, and it's not. I think the key takeaway is it's not easy. There's no quick fix. You've got to get the right people in place, and it's about taking the opportunities to make little improvements. There's been no one main thing that has made the service desk better today than it was 5 years ago. It's been an incremental chipping away at the pain. One more service request here that's a couple of clicks easier for us to do, stops that backwards and forwards with the end users. It's been one little bit of automation that just takes that little bit, that edge away. So that one extra knowledge article that helps end users understand how to do their thing that little bit easier and not come back to us after we've sent them the instructions. It's lots of little things like that. We're getting better with our communications out. I know James is on the call. We haven't always been great at communicating our changes and doing things like that, but we are getting better, and I think we're engaging with our customers and stakeholders a lot better than we ever used to, and it's all coming together. There's still loads, huge way to go, but it is getting better.
Thanks, Richard. I recognise we'd hoped to spend a little bit of time at the end for Q&A, but obviously we did take a good number of questions in the middle of the session there. If there are any further questions that you'd like us to answer outside of the session, please do just drop them in the chat now, and I'll pick them up and we can respond to them. Equally, you'll have on your screens the QR code. Please do feel free to take your phones out and open the form there that will allow you to drop us a note with a query or a question, or also allow you to book in a free tooling workshop as a thank you for joining us today. We hope you've found it beneficial, insightful, and we hope to see you at our next Mosaic webinar. But we'll leave it there. Thank you again, Richard, for your time in hosting today's conversation, and look forward to seeing some of you all again. Thanks so much. Bye now.
Thanks a lot.